Welcome to Celtic Tomes, bringing you readings from bygone books.
Welcome to Celtic Tomes, bringing you readings by Gary and Ruth from the classic books of Celtic lore and study. Chapter 17 of For the Religion of the Ancient Celts by J.A. MacCulloch.
Chapter 17 Tabu. The Irish geis, plural geasa, which may be rendered by taboo, had two senses. It meant something which must not be done for fear of disastrous consequences, and also an obligation to do something commanded by another. As a taboo, the geis had a large place in Irish life, and was probably known to other branches of the Celts. It followed the general course of taboo wherever found. Sometimes it was imposed before birth, or it was hereditary, or connected with totemism. Legends, however, often arose, giving a different explanation to geasa, long after the customs in which they had originated had been forgotten. It was one of Dermot's geasa not to hunt the boar of Ben Gulban, but this was probably totemic in origin. Legend told how his father had killed a child, the corpse being changed into a boar by the child's father, who said its span of life would be the same as Dermot's, and that he would be slain by it. Oengus put geasa on Dermot not to hunt it, but at Finn's desire he broke these, and was killed. Other geasa, those of Cúchulainn not to eat dog's flesh, and of Conaire never to chase birds, also point to totemism. In some cases, geasa were based on ideas of right and wrong, honour or dishonour, or were intended to cause avoidance of unlucky days. Others are unintelligible to us. The largest number of geasa concerned kings and chiefs, and are described, along with their corresponding privileges, in the Book of Rights. Some of the geasa of the King of Connaught were not to go to an assembly of women at Laguerre, nor to sit in autumn on the sepulchral mound of the wife of Maine, not to go in a grey-speckled garment, on a grey-speckled horse to the heath of Cruachan, and the like. The meaning of these is obscure, but other examples are more obvious and show that all alike corresponded to the taboos applied to kings in primitive societies, who are often magicians, priests, or even divine representatives. On them, the welfare of the tribe and the making of rain or sunshine and the processes of growth depend. They must therefore be careful of their actions, and hence they are hedged about with taboos, which, however unmeaning, have a direct connection with their powers. Out of such conceptions, the Irish kingly geasa arose. Their observance made the earth fruitful, produced abundance and prosperity, and kept both the king and his land from misfortune. In later times, these were supposed to be dependent on the goodness or the reverse of the king, but this was a departure from the older idea, which is clearly stated in the Book of Rights. The kings were divinities, on whom depended fruitfulness and plenty, and who must therefore submit to obey their geasa. Some of their prerogatives seem also to be connected with this state of things. Thus, they might eat of certain foods or go to certain places on particular days. In primitive societies, kings and priests often prohibit ordinary mortals from eating things which they desire for themselves by making them taboo. And in other cases, the fruits of the earth can only be eaten after king or priest has partaken of them ceremonially. This may have been the case in Ireland. The privilege relating to places may have meant that these were sacred and only to be entered by the king at certain times and in his sacred capacity. As a reflection from this state of things, the heroes of the sagas, Cúchulainn and Fionn, had numerable geasa applicable to themselves, some of them religious, some magical, others based on primitive ideas of honour, others perhaps the invention of the narrators. Geasa, whether in the sense of taboos or of obligations, could be imposed by anyone, and must be obeyed, for disobedience produced disastrous effects. Probably the obligation was framed as an incantation or spell, and the power of the spell being fully believed in, obedience would follow as a matter of course. Examples of such geasa are numerous in Irish literature. Cúchulainn's father-in-law put geasa on him that he should know no rest until he found out the cause of the exile of the sons of Doel. And Conaire put geasa on Diarmaid that he should elope with her, and this he did, though the act was repugnant to him. Among savages, the punishment which is supposed to follow taboo breaking is often produced through autosuggestion, when a taboo has been unconsciously infringed and this has afterwards been discovered. Fear produces the result which is feared. The result is believed, however, to be the working of divine vengeance. In the case of Irish geasa, destruction and death usually followed their infringement, as in the case of Diarmaid and Cúchulainn. But the best instance is found in the tale of the destruction of the Derga's hostel, in which the she-folk avenge themselves for Eirchi's action by causing the destruction of his descendant Conaire, who is forced to break his geasa. These are first minutely detailed, and then it is shown how, almost in spite of himself, Conaire was led on to break them, and how in the sequel his tragic death occurred. Viewed in this light as the working of the divine vengeance to a remote descendant of the offender by forcing him to break his taboos, the story is one of the most terrible in the whole range of Irish literature.
That was Chapter 17 of For the Religion of the Ancient Celts by J.A. MacCulloch. A link to the full text can be found in the show notes. If you've enjoyed this podcast, why not try our sister podcast, the Celtic Myth Pod Show, which brings the stories of ancient Celts to life with narrative and drama, as well as bringing you modern Celtic music, stories and information. Find the Celtic Myth Pod Show in all the places where the best podcasts hang out, or on our website at celticmythpodshow.com.
We'd like to say a massive thank you and give a shout out to Daniel, Sláinte, Erica, Kyle and Brandy for being patrons of the podcast on our Patreon page. Thank you so much. Your support is ensuring that we can keep on making these shows. If you'd like to support our continued work on Celtic Tomes, please come and find us on patreon.com/Celtic Tomes. That's patreon.com/Celtic Tomes.
You've been listening to Celtic Tomes, read by Gary and Ruth. Our theme music is Gander in the Pratie Hole by Sláinte, and a link to their music can be found in the show notes at celtictomes.libsyn.com. This podcast has been produced by the Celtic Myth Show.